we see this behavior perhaps in house cats, maybe in certain other animals in the wild. Most animals in the wild eat what they kill.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Yep.
so maybe the anomaly is the domestic cat, where I've seen them just play with things,
Right.
and but yeah, seeing this in human behavior is frightening, and being around, being that close to that has got to be. I've been around some pretty interesting people, but no one that evil, if you know what I mean, with that kind of evil signature. And although I've been around some really scary criminals, although never incarcerated, just growing up in Los Angeles, that's
Yeah,
got to
I mean,
be.
We're back live, guys.
cool. Yeah, that's the thing that's weird is that you have right next to him there were other people who, in any other context would be considered hardcore, scary criminals. There was one guy, Tookie Williams, who's one of the founders of the Crips. So, pretty famous deal in terms of one of the biggest gangs in American history. You have, kind of a who's who of some of the criminal history in the late 20th century California. And those guys look like, tough guys, but they look ordinary compared to Ramirez. You see Ramirez and you see an entirely different beast right there, because this is somebody who gets off on pain as opposed to being the criminal who, hey, you're in my way and I'll just have to whack you because you're standing in my way. One is rational, one you can understand, that there's the same logic that other people use, just taken to the extreme. The other one is some kind of a strange freak from outer space that it's very hard to relate to unless you are made of the same stuff.
Those listening who don't know who Richard Ramirez is, please look him up. He was the Night Stalker, and as someone who is a native Los Angelino who lived through this period, it was quite terrifying, because he was just slipping in to people's suburban homes up and down California, a lot in Southern California, in Los Angeles, slipping in and savagely mutilating and brutalizing human beings.
Yep.
Just horrible. And living through this as a child, and the fear my mom had of making sure everything was locked,
Right.
making sure, oh my God, and really people talking about, dude, you never know what he's going to do. Anyone who doesn't know, look up this cat.
He didn't have any preferences, did he?
No.
He just anybody, right?
You look at his modus operandi. He used different weapons, different kind of victims, and in different tools. But always savage and always brutalized women in particular. That was one consistent theme. And what's wonderful about Richard Ramirez is a little street justice. Richard Ramirez was finally identified by the authorities, and there was a manhunt for him. And he was found in East LA trying to break into someone's car, and the citizens of that community found him and beat him into submission until law enforcement showed up.
Yep.
Is that really? That's how he got caught?
Yes,
Yep.
sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, that's awesome.
The police even saved him because they were going to kill him right then and there, and the police saved him by coming in and arresting him.
Well, you know what? When you terrorize an entire community of people like that, and they get their hands on you, that's fucking that's the way shit should be. I feel that way about child molesters the most.
Very interesting, though. His savagery. Their savagery is a savagery I can absolutely understand.
See,
His
that's
savagery is so
savagery
foreign to me.
out of necessity.
So you know what I'm saying? It kind of a duality, but no, they're not. They are two different things.
Yeah.
That is heavy. So maybe a history lesson for those who don't know about who he is. But I will tell you, his kill count and his terror level was much greater than Manson's. Manson is, everyone knows who Charles Manson is, whether they know all the details of the crime.
Right.
But Richard Ramirez, the quantity of kill and the length of terror was much more extensive than anything Manson did. Manson was more of a cultural crime at the time,
Right.
I think, and it had that impact on the culture of America at the time. It was a perfect way to kind of end the hippie revolution for many people, and I think he became a symbol, and they became a symbol much more. But the genuine hysteria that was on the streets that I lived through
Right.
during the Ramirez period was really unforgettable as a kid. Seeing my mom frightened,
Yeah, I bet that's when your parents, when the people that are supposed to protect you are scared, that's gotta be terrifying for a child.
Well,
Yep.
And now he's sitting right next to the dude.
Yeah, and you're there visiting somebody else, probably not as bad at all, and he's just sitting there staring at you.
Yep, he was like freakishly kept staring at me and had this smile on his face that was like the most chilling and freakish thing I've ever seen.
Why you though? Why look at you? You think?
Fuck if I know.
Nothing weird about the day or about you or nothing, and
I have no idea.
you know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's scary to think that he saw something in you to stare at you, though.
Yeah, but I wasn't gonna ask him. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, right. I wouldn't have said shit to him either.
Yeah.
but just it's odd how people like that would stare at you and you know and want to you know pick one person out of the crowd to really hone in on, you know, to put focus on like that. That's just amazing. What you know, what must go on in a brain like that?
Don't want to
Well,
know.
I would ask Daniel, what's it like to look in the eyes of the devil? Because that is an experience. You're talking about it now, but not many of us, not many humans walking the earth are ever going to come close to, we could say, evil incarnate, you know?
Yeah.
Living evil, there's not too many beings around. Did you feel any, like, post-traumatic vibe, or, you know, did it take a while to kind of process that? You know what I'm saying?
I remember it was weird. I remember feeling anger. Like, I remember, and not an anger like a logical kind, like, oh, I'm mad because of this and this, or why are you staring at me? I just remember, like, seeing something so screwed up in the guy that I remember just something inside of me feeling like, fuck you. I don't know, there was something like, I can't quite explain it, but there was definitely an element of something conflictual there steering in me.
Wow. Yeah. Well. Yeah.
And something that stuck, though, there would be some sort of, like, lasting, like, residual, not evil, but you're kind of, you know, your good nature and being around that. Yeah, just, and who he was, too. I mean, just who he was. And that when you hear people like me who live through it, that's just very heavy, man. That is just very heavy. It's very heavy. And,
yeah, because again, most killers are not different from regular people. Most killers are regular people with some weird issues, or with a particularly weird reaction at that moment, or with some really weird motivation, you know, but is taken to the extreme the way everybody is. Their anger, their emotions, a lot of those people were pretty polite, very nice. You know, I'm sure not nice in the sense of, you know, I want to have dinner with you all the time, but nice as in, you know, you meet them down the street and you wouldn't think twice about it. Guys like Ramirez stand out because there's a whole different energy to them. There's a whole different. You're looking at a predator who's out to inflict pain, and that's his driving force. You're not looking at somebody who just wants to make money the quickest, cheapest, dirtiest way possible. You're looking at a predator, and the whole thing. And this is where it gets trippy. Ramirez had a ton of female fans. The day when I was there, he had his wife was there, wife that he met after he was arrested and married him after he had been convicted as the Night Stalker.
Why does that always happen? I don't understand that. That's one of the most baffling things ever to me.
It's the ultimate bad boy. You know, they're, for whatever reason, in certain women's upbringing, perhaps a poor father figure, perhaps no father figure. There is. We see it on a small level in life. Any man who's been a bachelor, you know, being you know, not the squarest cat, can be attractive to women. Tattoos can work, a motorcycle can work. Hey, being a surf cat, like my thing, that angle, you know what I mean? Not, you know, that these things can. So the ultimate extreme perversion. Maybe you find the right girl with the right parent, or the wrong parenting and the perfect characterological disorder. That is the super enhanced bad boy. You know what I mean?
Yep,
the ultimate. I mean, you know what I mean? The ultimate fuck you, dad. It's worse than doing porn. You know?
Yeah.
Well, perhaps, yeah, I guess. I mean, that's.
And perhaps there's also, like, the average girl who likes the batter boy. There's a sense of adventure. You know what I mean? You want to go fuck. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the safe adventure, because you're sitting right next to the scariest man in the state, probably, and at the same time you know that nothing really bad can happen to you because you're in the middle of the most heavily guarded place possible. So you're sitting right next to the guy. So there's a weird thrill of the whole thing. And that's part of it. And I think another part of it is there's the little nurse syndrome of, all the evil he's done, it's because of fucked up childhood. I can heal him. I see the good in him, kind of thing.
Yeah, but that's a far reach for wow.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Wow, what a far reach for a woman to I mean, to look at a guy that brutalized people, that was a predator, and such a powerful force on the community of terrorizing them, that's who she feels most connected to go after, to marry, or to fall in love with. And it's always
Yeah.
and it always seems to happen though. All the famous killers and all these prisoners, I mean, if you turned on MSNBC right on the weekends, they're running all them lockup shows.
Yep.
And there are always women on there that are pen pals that want to marry a prisoner.
There's
Absolutely.
something powerful about that. I got to look again. There's something powerful, and it's funny. Men often do things that get them laid. You know what I mean? Many of the things we do, whether it's you know what I'm saying, clothes we wear, the things we do, our behaviors, and maybe they are getting female attention. In other words, men do things. They do their dance to get the female attention. So
Yeah.
it is another way to manipulate women. And manipulate isn't always a bad word, but it certainly is. And it is a certain power move. And like Daniel said regarding the women, they are in this kind of bubble or moat. So they get to have this fantasy relationship with this lethal killer, yet it's completely intangible. It is kind of a Twitter friendship almost.
Well, yeah, it is. Sure.
Yet in Twitter, we meet each other.
Right.
Yeah. But that's something I'll never be able to put that together. I don't care what. That's just one of them odd things that I can watch Lockup on the weekends when nothing else is on, and I'm like, oh, let's see what these crazy prisoners are doing. Here's a line of women. Here's a guy with a stack of pen pal letters. This one wants to marry me. I won't get out for 25 years. What in the hell is wrong with you people? But
it's just a dynamic that exists. As I say, it's the ultimate, or the ultimate super bad boy. And I think that is, and Daniel's point about the kind of moat of protection, or the bubble of protection, allows these women to play on this fantasy, fulfill themselves probably. They probably feel important. And hey, when a dude's locked up around 10,000 men or whatever however they pack the prisons in California, he's got 24 hours a day to devote attention to women. And one thing most of us heterosexual men know is women enjoy attention. They love it. So she's getting a cat who's got, 16 hours a day to conjure up romantic things to say to her,
Right.
I know a lot of our friends here on Twitter spend a lot of hours on one tweet, right? Or the cat's got 24 fucking hours, to just work on this shit. So she's getting this guy's full attention, and that's got to be pretty empowering to her, and he can't he can fuck any man he wants, but he can't fuck any other woman.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
He locked up.
She knows that's the only woman in his eyes. That one right there. That's it. That's all that devotion is just for her. But I still think that is the craziest shit ever in the world.
That is.
I mean,
really
just to marry a serial killer that's behind bars for the rest of his life. There's no what in the fuck? I mean, that's one of them things that I'll never wrap my head around.
Human beings are amazing. I love that, though. That's the great adventure of life, though. People do interesting things that are illogical. Not these horrible, brutal things, but these crazy things.
Yeah, off the wall things.
They're all getting a little something out of it. Any more jail stories, Daniel? That's a pretty good one. You're not going to top that. I mean, you started with the story.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's got one just as good.
Let's see, other jail stories. I have
or encounters with law enforcement, or customs, or it can be pretty broad, because some of us have had bad experiences with the TSA in the United States, or
I have a couple.
Or through the border in Mexico. I know people who've had difficult times. been shaken down, incarcerated.
Yeah, I have a
temporarily?
couple. Let's see what we have. Well, one is not. I mean, there's a long story, but I'll keep it. One is just a friend of mine had escaped from South Dakota State Penitentiary, what the newspaper at the time had called South Dakota Great Escape. So there was some pretty interesting stuff in terms of his ability to break out of jail and on a fairly regular basis, because this happened multiple times of him breaking out. So there was some pretty cool mythology about that, and but that's not personal experience. I'm just relating my friend's experience. As far as let's see, encounter with law enforcement, one that was pretty funny. I remember when I was 17 or so, 18 years old. I was still living in Italy, and I was going to the train station to take a friend of mine, this girl who was going to take a train and go on vacation or something. And we are walking to the train platform, and we are stop right there. And we turn around, and there's a cop, and we see that the cop has a dog, and is clearly an anti-drug dog. And I was like, fuck. And we had a relatively small amount of hashish with us, and the dog had smelled it, and that's just where it was. So the cop take us to the back of the train station and is like, okay, look, I'm gonna be straight up with you. You guys take it out right away. You show me what you got, and if it's not much, well, we can see. I'll try to be nice about it. But if you guys make me look for it and search and try it, then I'm gonna be pissed. And so we're like, okay, fine. It's right in the pocket. He's gonna find it right away. So okay, here is the hashish. And then he take us to the back where there are like 3 or 4 other cops, and now it's the decision time. What are they gonna do? And they are clearly, tossing back and forth, thinking, what do we want to do about it? And the girl who was next to me was this very cute blonde girl who looked like from a good family, very, proper and everything. And she started crying, which was perfect because I softened them up, and it gave me the chance to play the responsible one. So I started going in. I started this whole spiel going about, oh, it's all my fault. She, even though it was on her, it really is mine, and I take full responsibility. Blah 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 blah. I kept it up for a while. Finally, it was time to shut up and see how they would react to my whole spiel. And this guy with heavy Southern Italian accent, the cop, looked at me and goes, "You behaved like a man, so now we'll behave like men with you." And I was like, whew. And so basically they just pocketed it and let us go. And I figured they probably smoked it right after and just didn't want to report it, and they were done with it. But I was like, whew, dodge a bullet. That was good.
That's that right there. The cops pocketing stuff brings up a little thing that people used to do allegedly. I'll just say allegedly. East St. Louis is a magnificent ghetto for almost anything in the world that you could want.
Right.
Any drug. And people would go down there and especially white suburban kids, white small town kids, to get cocaine, heroin, anything you couldn't get locally. Nobody around the local area would ever have these things. So what you would do is you would put a $50 bill in your left front pocket and a dime bag of weed. You go down there, and if you get pulled over, when the cop says, "What did you get?" you pull the 50 out with the dime bag and said, "I just came down here to get some weed." There's $50 in a dime bag. The search is over. They're done messing with you. They grab your dime bag, they grab your $50, they tell you to get the hell out of the city and don't come back.
Right.
In the meantime, there's an 8-ball of cocaine in the car, or
Right.
a balloon of heroin, and it happened to a couple people I know several times.
Right.
And it every single time it was give them the dime bag and a $50 bill and walk away without a felony sentence and and the rest of the good stuff.
Yep.
So
It's an excellent survival strategy. I do have a question for Daniel Bolelli. I know you know this, that no country incarcerates a higher percentage of its population in prisons than the United States.
Yep.
There's something uniquely American about our culture that does that, but I just wonder what your opinion of why do you think America does this? I have some points of view on this too, but it is something that is very uniquely American. It is, I think much of it is part of a culture war, other things, but and a race and class war. But perhaps I'd like to hear your insights on why do you think our country, which in so many ways is very successful in so many things,
Right.
is this the casualty of our success? You know what I mean? And a country that seems to waive freedoms or laud their freedoms is the same country that seems to imprison more people and clearly seems to be involved in our privacy more than ever.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there are many, many reasons since it's such a broad question. So there are probably many good reasons that one can bring forward as reasonable evidence for that. The one that comes to mind is definitely it's business. It makes money. Privatization of prisons, the guards, prison guard unions, all of that. There's a lot of money tied to keeping people in prison, building more prison, putting more people in prison. Not that long ago, I saw an article about a judge, I believe it was in Pennsylvania, who not only convicted but also added time to sentences of particularly juveniles, because he was getting a direct kickback for every person he sent to a private prison. He got busted. He got, he got a sentence for that, and I'm sure he's going to enjoy his time in prison.
that was was that not the story about it all came to light after the kid shot himself, and the parents were going crazy about it?
Yeah, I can't remember how it started, like how he got busted. I honestly don't remember. But yeah, I read it not that long ago, and I was like, that's a perfect story right there. Big top-notch judge busted for essentially sentence in prison because he makes money out of it.
Yeah, and it was juveniles over and over again.
Yep.
And giving them crazy amounts of time for like possession of weed. He was telling these kids they were going to get 10 years, and
Right.
then that's when I think a kid shot himself and kind of shed light on it, that the mom went crazy about the sentencing and why was he going to get so long. But I think that's the same story. But yeah, finally it all came to light, and you know what? They should have gave that guy every damn year he ever gave to kids excessive.
Yep.
And that ties into what we were discussing earlier, Tony. We were talking about cannabis and if cannabis. Some of the opponents of cannabis, right, are the folks that work in prisons,
Sure.
the folks in narcotics, the folks in DEA, and if we're going to have legal cannabis, we need to understand that one of the reasons these guys are fighting cannabis is because they're worried about their mortgages and their children, right?
Yep.
They're worried about their money. And to find peace, I made the point to Tony that this is kind of like disarmament after a war. If we're going to end the war on cannabis, we've got to peacefully look at these men and women and think, you need to earn a living. We understand that. We're going to disarm you from this, from prisons and from enforcing cannabis laws, and find other things for you to do so you can pay your mortgage. Find a way to kind of peacefully disarm that. That's one of the points I made earlier on the show. But I do think our country imprisons far too many people, and it is done for profit. And I do think, and not just for profit, there are plenty of people, like the soldiers in the drug war, are probably just good people, but that's just their job. Yep. And they're tied into it. So we start talking about, hey, we're going to make cannabis legal, even if they're not very conscious of it, maybe on an unconscious level. That's an attack on, wait a minute, how am I going to pay for my mortgage? How am I going to pay for the kids? And I think making peace with these soldiers is really the future, at least for cannabis being legalized, and perhaps freeing up this prison population, because one of my concerns in America is a young man can receive a felony conviction for a minor drug possession, and forever he can be limited professionally. Many of the jobs he may want to do, if you have a felony conviction on your record, many professions you can't go into. I was telling Tony, my job requires security clearance and fingerprinting and a background check, and a friend of mine wanted a position who's very qualified, and he at 19 he sold some pot to a cop, or 18 he sold pot to a cop, and he's 50 now, and because of that felony conviction so many years ago, it's still on your record. You know what I mean? Or all
Yeah, it never goes away. That never goes away ever.
Yes, sir. Now, the other young men who were forever driven into the underground economy, a life as a criminal, because that first felony conviction has ruined them. Or you put a young man away, he's possessing cocaine, you put him away for 15 years, he goes in at 18, he comes out a hardened man, and he learns no skills, he's lost the prime of his life.
Yep.
We've wasted a lot of young men's lives, and most of these, are. And Tony this jail tales theme is a lot of decisions young men make, are just little mistakes. Tony ended up going to prison for kind of a mistake. Tony, essentially.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, definitely a mistake. It was my fault for trusting somebody I shouldn't have. But
and youth and immaturity too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Being a young guy, because you're a lot more trusting when you're a younger guy, and people are supposed to be your friends, or you think people you're under that illusion growing up that people are gonna do the right thing. That
Right.
I mean, I never when I was younger, and somebody would lie to me, I wouldn't know that people were lying to me so easily until later on in life. I was just, why would you lie? That's the way because I guess the way I was raised. I don't know, but I always thought, well, why would they lie about it? To me, there was never a point in doing that. So I couldn't, I couldn't understand that. Why would you just make something crazy up and lie to me when there was nothing? Nobody was mad at you. You didn't have to cover anything. Why would you just tell a lie? I never got that until, teenage years that people did that. And I don't know. I had a hard time grasping it, and I put a lot of trust in a lot of people that acted like you were, they're your friends. They're there to help you if you need it and stuff. And you definitely learn from that, though. You learn that now you can't trust anybody. You have to, build the trust. You can't just automatically go, this person's going to be good, and just be a decent person like you are.
Somebody should have handed to you Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power very early on.
Yeah, you know what? I wish I'd have read so many more books. But I read a lot and learned a lot through my mistakes, though, because this is the whole prison thing and the whole going away and being away from my family and all that nonsense. I mean, that definitely changed me. And just to show you, I was a pretty decent person. I had it was a demerit system in the boot camp program. You had 12 demerits on a card. When you filled up a card, you had to carry the log on your back for a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
You had to take a shower with it, go to bed with it, everything. And it wasn't no joke. It was a 100-something pound, great big piece of wood, a log. I got out of there and graduated with 1 demerit on the first set of cards. And it was for talking to somebody when we weren't supposed to be talking. Right. I asked somebody a question. Because, it's not hard to just go through your day and just do what you're told for 4 months, essentially. That's what I got to do. I got to go in PT. I got to run 7 miles a day, work in the kitchen, or go out on a road crew for 4 months. Okay. I'll do that and get the hell out of here. Why do I want to mess that up? But I saw several inner city kids from Chicago or what, their pride got in their way, and they ended up not graduating from a 4-month program and going home, but going to prison and then having to serve almost their entire sentence.
Damn.
And that's up to an 8-year sentence.
Yeah.
And I never, I can't fathom what would be wrong with you that you wouldn't just shut your damn mouth, do what you were told, get that over with, and go on with your life. That's all I wanted to do.
Maybe the rest of your life is not that much better than what you're going through.
You know what? And maybe inner city kid with no future, doesn't give a shit. You know, all of his buddies are probably in prison.
Right.
You know, because that's I was locked up in the co-ed one in Dixon Springs, Illinois, which is down in the Shawnee Forest, and so we had let's see, 3 guys from Chicago try and escape, and the guards used to laugh because they said they ran into the woods. They'll be back in a minute. And I shit you not, I saw 2 of them come running back out of the woods and try apologizing. Because they were scared. They were scared of the woods. Oh, they were scared of the woods and snakes and swampy, nasty, and you know, they're from Chicago. What the hell do they know about the woods?
Right.
You know, and it was cold. It was winter time, and we had an ice storm. And this idiot takes off on the morning run when it's still dark, and starts cutting through the woods. I didn't see him do it because I tell you what, I sure would have said, hey, that guy took off in the woods, because even afterwards, them 2 officers said, now, I don't know who is so stupid they watched him run. If they would have said, look at that guy, he took off, he's trying to escape, we would have signed your papers, you'd have been out of here today. They would have granted your freedom if you'd have just said something. Instead, we stood at attention, like military attention, straight up and down, in a gymnasium for 8 hours until they found the one guy.
Ooh.
People pissing and shitting themselves, passing out, throwing up. Stood there for 8 hours. At attention. That's a ridiculous amount of time. Any military guy can tell you that. But all I could think is, why didn't somebody say something when they seen that? You know, oh, you don't want to be a rat? Oh, big fucking deal. You want to do this instead. I just, you know, pretty simple shit going on in life that common sense is a fucking superpower nowadays. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, in the system too, my bigger concern is the prison business, the law enforcement business, and so many and the destruction of young men's lives. I have a son who's a sophomore in college, and imagine if he, his life was destroyed after all, because of one little felony conviction because he had a narcotic or something like that. That would be just horrible. Now, I don't expect that to happen to him. He has fairly good judgment, but it could to any of our children, and imagine wasting a life, and something you loved, and that's what most of these young men in prison, they were someone's babies, and they were someone's babies. So, and to waste all these lives, I don't want to send them off to war either, but there are better things we can do, better things we do. I think, again, changing our cannabis laws nationally, or as we're doing in America, state by state, is how that's gonna change.
It's gotta happen nationally though, so all these people can be let out of prison on the federal charges. That would be the best thing ever.
The argument I've been making is that those can afford it, that are pro cannabis, which is one of the many issues I'm interested in. Move to the green states, support their tax base, and drain the tax base of the states that. And if you're pro gay marriage, move to,
definitely, yes.
Just and if you're pro-choice, move to a pro-choice state. I think that's really where America's heading. I really do. I think there's going to be a regional difference, and we'll see which states are the most impoverished in the end. In that I just sort of look at. Hey, an interesting thing, Daniel, since you're in San Quentin, and Tony, I know you've seen plenty of prison shows. A unique thing about the California prison system, which doesn't take place in most other prison systems in the United States, is the racial segregation that exists here. In what one could argue is probably the as someone who grew up in California, I'm a local Los Angelino. We are quite open-minded, and we don't have the same history of racism as they have in the South or even in parts of the Northeast, right? And our schools are more integrated historically than those schools have been for generations. Yet, an interesting dynamic in the California prison system is the racial segregation amongst the convicts, where in southern prisons that doesn't happen. there's a mixing. In northeastern prisons, there is a mixing, and I don't know, perhaps an anthropologist can answer this question, but it is so unique that my state, which is in many ways so progressive, and everybody I know is married to someone from a different race. Do you know what I mean? And has multicultural kids. That's just what Los Angeles is, and that's our normal. Yet it almost it's I don't. If anyone has any ideas, I don't know if you do, Danielle.
No, I've never noticed because I've never seen southern jails. I have seen jails in the Midwest or something where it was still pretty segregated, where it was Indian guys with the Indian guys, white guys with the white guys, black guys. So I saw it segregated elsewhere, but I haven't seen the non-segregated version anywhere. So I thought it was like that everywhere.
Yeah, Illinois is fully segregated.
Okay, there are some southern prisons. From seeing these documentaries, for example, Tony, but I asked something that what really stood out was the quote race mixing, which you would never see in a California prison. And I saw it. And if you look at some of those documentaries that are on
Louisiana, I think Louisiana is all mixed.
Alabama was mixed, and I thought that was so fascinating. These, anybody who knows American history fairly well, the most historically segregated parts of the United States, their prisons seemed to me comparatively a little more integrated or mixed. I thought that was interesting, and
maybe the other prison systems segregate just to try and prevent problems, though. Maybe that was I'm sure some at one point or another there was an issue with. And they said, let's solve it and put every race with every race, then we don't have those issues. You know what I'm saying? It was probably an administrative decision to quell problems between mixing races and cells, and everybody went with it. But you're right, because even if you watch Lockup, it seemed like those southern prisons are mixed.
Take a second look, and you'll see more mixing, which I think is. It's just interesting, and I don't know what it says. But I think it's kind of, another thing that I've seen these shows is the tribalism, and I'm not sure if I'm ashamed as a human of the tribalism or if it's just what human beings do in these kind of situations. I don't know. I don't have an answer for it. Part of it, I think, it goes against my nature as a free citizen. Do you know what I mean? That grew up in a world city. That doesn't. You know what I'm saying? And I almost see it. Is it a human? The question I ask is this the human tendency in this kind of situation, this kind of tribalism? Or is it just what they do to survive, and it was created by the outside culture, right? Or do we get this ugly when the chips are down? I hope we don't. As I say, and I've said Death Squad is colorblind. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, though, but I don't know. It's what I hope, but I don't know. And that's a question I ask myself sometimes.
I will say that some of the stuff in prison of grouping up or tribalism is survival. Some of it's now you're tougher than the other guys because you have this group with you, so you can walk with your head up a little bit. Some of it's just completely out of fear to run with another group. But you will see, at least I saw, lots and lots of people that stayed on their own. Stayed away from all the groups, didn't get involved. I'll just sit over here and be me, don't worry about it. I'm neutral in this whole thing.
Staying alone, okay. I'm sorry.
But the staying alone thing, then you get looked at by all groups equally as, why ain't that guy with our group? So but then again, you don't get involved in the group matters of so-and-so stabbed so-and-so, so we have to hit them back. The gang mentality. So, I mean, it's, you just got to kind of take your damn chances, how's it going to work out for you? Are you going to be okay on your own? Are you going to need the help of other people? Do you absolutely have, do you have to have that company of those other people to protect you? I mean, that's a different situation for everybody, though.
But a difficult place to live. It's funny you said you didn't read certain books. You want to read more. The first book I read that kind of almost made prison somewhat romantic is the autobiography of Malcolm X, only because now he was no longer in prison in the end, but the things he did to his brain in prison. He read everything in sight. He read every word and wrote out every word in the dictionary. Do you know what I'm saying? He used that time
For
and
betterment.
there's a little piece of me. If you could lock me away and give me internet access and reading material, but you know what? There's something a little attractive about that kind of monastic. Like if you read the autobiography of Malcolm X, it does sound like he used this period of solitude. Obviously, it enlightened him. The being in, a lot of things enlightened him. Obviously, but that time he used that time to read. Obviously, he didn't have much time because he'd carrying logs. But that's the only, like I say, that was the first, like, oh wow, if I went to prison, I could be like Malcolm X and I could actually get every, that's the only romantic vision I have. Nothing else, the giving up my freedom and privacy, I would resist with
Yeah,
every bit of me.
you know what? It's the biggest shell shock, I think, is you're sharing a 8x6 cell with another man across the hall from a bunch of other cells. Everybody can see you, and you've got to take down your pants and sit on that toilet and take a shit, and now everybody can smell you. And now you have to smell everybody else and see everybody else too. That is a shocking experience. I mean, can you just think about that?
Oh, sure. That's again, that's the privacy, the surrendering of freedom and privacy. I really value my privacy.
Right.
I really do, and it is again, it. The crime, was it worth it? You know what I mean? Whatever it was, did it? Again, you could watch some of these documentaries like American Greed, where a white collar criminal that makes $100 million, is able to stash half of it away, does 5 years. If you ask me, that's not, ethically it's horrible to do to human beings, mind you, but that
Right.
seems to be a certainly much more profitable crime. You know what I'm saying? And those almost make sense to me logically, but also young men do dumb things, right? That's just what happens in youth, right? I mean,
Yeah,
young men make mistakes, driving, things like that, or mostly narcotics, though, right?
Yeah, it's the narcotics
It's the
convictions that are the worst in this country, right? I mean, that's what non-violent narcotic possessions, even. It's not even, you weren't even selling anything. It was just that you were having something for your own personal usage. I mean, that to be the biggest convictions in our country, the most numerical out of the whole, pie, the biggest slices are for possession.
And many of those laws were a war on culture, a war on the counterculture, clearly. They didn't want the freaking hippie radical left or whatever it was supposed to be. They wanted Nixon and everything else, and everything else that preceded him, perhaps. Boy, but what a nice New Year's Eve this has been.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, this is
What a fantastic call! My goodness, what an amazing call on your first podcast, Tony.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking that Daniel calls. That's awesome.
Sorry I was late. I just was wrapping things up on my computer. I just checked Twitter really briefly. I saw your mention. I'm like, shit, I wonder if he's still on or not. That's why I wrote you real quick to make sure I could catch the tail end of it.
That's great. Well, yeah, we need to wrap up. I think we went 4 hours tonight for our first podcast. That's ridiculous.
That's more than I do in a month.
Well, I tell you what, I thought, yeah, we'll tell a couple jail tales and be out of here in an hour and be done. But I tell you what, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for calling in, Waterboxer, Daniel Bolelli. Go check out the Drunken Taoist podcast. Best fucking podcast.
Yeah.
I love it.
If you're listening to this,
love
you
it.
probably listen to JR80. You've heard Daniel Bolelli. I mean, there and on his own podcast. My goodness. Go to his website, danielbolelli.com. He's on Twitter at DBOLELLI.
Indeed.
But you probably already follow him if you follow us.
Yeah. Andy's
now
on
I'm gonna-
Facebook.
Now I'm gonna blush and go hug my teddy bear.
Hey, thanks. It's an honor to share the first
Thank you
cast.
guys so much.
Thank you. And buy his books. Go to Amazon and check out the best books ever. My 3 favorites. On the Warrior's Path, 50 Things You Didn't Know About Religion, and the last book, Create Your Own Religion, which it has to be my favorite right now. Also, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Cantu Bruner Designs. Custom made ink pens out of bullets, custom wood. American company, American boy, trying to get by, started his own business. It's CANTU BRUNER Designs.
And my final shout out is be like Lao, follow the Drunken Taoists, and don't go to SeaWorld. See your sea mammals in the sea. If you're in the Southern California area and you want to see a dolphin, join me on a paddleboard. I'll take you out. Don't go to the Mirage Hotel in Las Vegas. They have a dolphin show there. Okay, they're keeping a dozen dolphins in a tiny fish tank. They're abusing them. And some of the comedians we support here in the Death Squad Network are performing at the Mirage Hotel, and it's something for us to pay attention to. Okay, see the movie Blackfish if you haven't seen it. Raise your awareness. Make the decision for yourself. Okay. Decide if you're going to take your children to SeaWorld or any marine mammal park. I suggest anyone see your sea mammals in the sea. Okay, you can do it. Thank you. They're happier there.
And thank you for everybody that tuned in tonight. Daniel, really, thank you for calling. That's excellent. I couldn't be happier with the guest lineup tonight, and you're the icing on the cake, buddy.
Ooh, yeah.
Anytime, man. Absolutely anytime.
Okay.
Honored.
Well, we're going to wrap it up then. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.